Alright, the update for today is that I had the windshield replaced yesterday. If you recall, the passenger airbag punched it and cracked it kind of in this area over here. So I did a little digging on the forums, and looking on the forums, it is impossible to remove the 3 pieces of trim that go around the windshield without breaking them. And I figured the glass guy would destroy them taking them off, so I attempted to take them off myself, and as expected, they broke, but I think they're a little less broken than if somebody else would have went and wrenched on them. I want to take a step back for a second. I forgot to make a video of how the interior trim pieces come off for when you need to replace the windshield. The A-pillars are simple. They require no tools. You just grab a hold of it and give it a pull. And there's a clip and a clip, and then you just rock it backwards and pull it, and it comes out. For the windshield replacement, you can just lay it on the dash and it's out of the way. If you need to take it out, you can either unplug it or just unclip the whole speaker and take it out, because this plug's a little difficult to get out, and the passenger side works the same way. To get the upper header out, under the sun visor, you've got 2 Torx screws, and there's a smaller one in here on each side. And then once you have those 6 screws out, you just grab a hold of it from the edge in the center and just pull it, and it has 4 metal clips along here. And then there's one plug that holds up, that's in the dome light. You just unplug that and it comes out. So what you have is 3 clip locations there, there, and there. If we look at one of the trim pieces, so the orange clip goes in the top, and then you've got a white one, and then another white one's supposed to be down there. The upper clips you can actually access through this hole with a stick of flat screwdriver, and you can pop the orange one out and then just kind of grab the trim and carefully rock it back and pull it. And the white clips, look at the white clips don't grab quite as hard as the orange clips, so those will pop out. And the center location's pretty robust. It didn't break on this one, but the bottom one's pretty weak, and it snapped half of it off. This is the driver's side piece. Now the side trim pieces are, you can see it, these are PCABS, so those are pretty easy to repair. You can use pretty much whatever on those, super glue, epoxy, all of that stuff will stick to those. The top trim piece is a real piece of shit. So it is PC PET, which is kind of a more of a rubbery plastic. It's real flexible. So you have a screw point there, and there's supposed to be another one over here. And those go in, goes in this hole, and a similar hole on the other side of the windshield header. And then it's a white clip on each end, and then you've got 2 orange clips that are supposed to be in the center. And I took the nuts off of it, and I was able to pop the white clips on each end off. And then I tried just lifting it a little bit in the center so I could see where the orange clips were, and putting a little bit of pressure on it ripped 3 of the attachment points off. So that's a piece of shit. And I've got the broken pieces here. I'm gonna see if I can epoxy it back on, but it's a bit tough to get epoxies to adhere to PET. I did look on JB Weld's website, and they do have a plastic epoxy. Called Plastic Bonder, and I called JB Weld to see if it would work on PET, and they said, well, we've had some luck with it. Your best chance is just to sand it and clean it really well and put it on there and see what happens. So I guess for $7 I'll try that, and I'll tug on the attachment points before I try to reinstall it. If they snap right off easily, then I'll just have to order a new trim piece. I think it's 150 bucks for a new one. A surprisingly shitty design from the Japanese for these trim pieces. So windshields are kind of a consumable part. You have to replace them fairly frequently if you drive in construction zones or whatnot. And adding $400 for trim pieces with every windshield replacement is pretty inefficient. I'm really surprised they designed it like that, but whatever. I'll try to cobble it back together, and if it doesn't work, I'll go and buy some new pieces, because I really don't want that trim piece on the top flying off on the highway. So if you, let me set it on there for a second. It has a little bit of a lip to it, so you can get a fair amount of wind catching it, and if it's a little bit loose and it turns up and you get some air under it, then it's really just going to rip it off. So yeah, well, I'll think about whether I want to get new ones or see if this works. But at least that top piece is the last piece to go on, so I can get the two side trims installed today, and I can put the cowl back on and the windshield wiper arms. I can't put the header back in though until that top trim piece is in, because I have to be able to access the attaching nuts for it. But everything else should be okay to put back on. So when I go to glue, well, epoxy this piece back together, I'll just sand it with a little bit of maybe 150, something like that, and give that a try. As you can see, I've got a heat lamp on it. It's a little chilly out here today, so I'm just trying to warm that up, and we'll warm up the I've got Gorilla Super Glue. This stuff's pretty good, and it should work on PC ABS pretty well. If not, then yeah, I can go with try the plastic bonder on it. It should definitely work on that, because it specifically calls out working on ABS. All right, the update on the repair for the upper windshield trim is that it's done and it's cured, and I'm cautiously optimistic on the repair. So following the instructions, I sanded the inside and the outside of the broken pieces, as well as the main substrate. That way, even if the epoxy can't chemically bond, it can at least mechanically bond to the two pieces. And then so before putting it on, I put glue on the inside of this piece and on the outside, and then stuck it down. That way there's epoxy running the whole inside of the broken piece and around the whole outside of it. Then I tried to take some epoxy and run it up this outside edge. So the outside edge of these pieces, that's what carries most of the force, like when you go to disengage it. So if we look at one that isn't broken. So yeah, pretty much the front edge is what carries all of the force when you go to yank it off. And because of the injection molding limitations, you can't easily put a radius on the outside or the inside of it. So you have these sharp, thin edges on the attachment points, and like if it's a clipped one, when you try to yank on it to disengage the clip, it just rips the whole thing off, especially when it's cheap ass PET or polypropylene. But we'll give this a try. I've pulled on them at least as hard as I think I did when they ripped off, and they seem to be holding pretty well. I haven't heard any cracking or see any cracking when I've pulled on them. So we'll try it. If it works, then that's good because it saves 150 bucks or so versus buying a new one. And go from there. All right, the windshield project is all done now. We've got the upper trim piece on, the cowl, both of the windshield wipers, and reinstalled the upper header. And I think everything's okay. Side pieces are firmly attached. The upper's firmly attached. The gap looks correct. The rubber seal is up against the windshield all the way around. So I think it should be okay. So that saves having to buy new pieces. The cowl's pretty easy to put on. It's just a screw here in each corner under this cap and some plastic clip locations along the bottom. Then you just kind of lift it up and pull it forward because it has some clips that go under the windshield around the bottom edge. Then the only other thing you have to do is unhook the windshield wiper hose. So overall not too bad, as long as you're careful taking the upper trim off.